Catherine Weigel, and I am one of your ghost hosts. I have lost about 145 pounds, and with me today is...
Donald Weigel, who is bedeviling and beguiling.
Oh.
And I have lost a bedeviling, beguiling 100 pounds.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations to you.
Must be nice for us. It is a spooky season. It is a bewitching season.
Yeah.
A devilish season. And if you are living and breathing right now, it is almost the time of Halloween.
Yes, it certainly is.
And
you definitely would know it if you were here with us. We are Halloween decorated up to the eyeballs.
We cannot stop buying Halloween things.
I was going to say decorated out the wazoo, but this is a family show. And I didn't want to, kids should not hear words like wazoo.
You just did. And you spoiled
I said it twice.
You spoiled it.
I said it twice.
Don't say it 3 times or else it will be
That's right. You'll summon the Candyman.
Yikes. But we are going to talk about this delightful season and the delicious and bedeviling treats that might enter your home when you invite them. So, Donald, you are a big fan of the gothness. Can you tell us...
You're thinking of 22-year-old me.
Yeah, but what can you tell us about vampires? How do they just come into your house whenever they feel like it and plonk down on the couch? How does that work?
Yeah, no, generally you have to invite them. You have to send them some sort of formal invitation in the mail or something.
You've got to say it. You are welcoming them into your house.
That's right.
One of the things, much like Bauhaus and other sort of vampire type things, Weight Watchers taught me that you do not bring the devil home with you. And the devil can take many bewitching forms, can't it, Donald?
It certainly can. And I am not somebody who still does Weight Watchers. It's a good program. We know a lot of people who have done very well on it. It didn't work for me long term, but there were bits and pieces of it that really, really worked. And one of the counselors at Weight Watchers used to say, "Don't bring the devil home with you." And what she meant by that was, don't bring home treats and snacks and foods that you can't control yourself around.
Right. And that has been a huge sticking point for me for years. And even not doing Weight Watchers, that turn of phrase has really stuck with me because I know that if I bring the devil home with me, I am inviting chaos. I am inviting distress and also deliciousness. But that can really throw us off our plans, can it, Donald? Even though we have lost all this weight, we still have rules around.
We sure do. And we're not talking about the actual devil, but in this case, the devil is actually like a cupcake or some such.
Right. So just in case you're wondering, this isn't a religious episode, but it is a season of bewitchingness. So
yes, we are going to talk about casting the devil out of your home and out of your soul and having your head not spin around 3 times. And,
exactly. Yeah. I haven't seen The Exorcist in a really long time.
Yeah.
Probably 20 years. I
haven't either, but we saw it in a theater in Princeton together. Did we see it together?
Sure. Okay. Yes, we did.
I thought we did.
I don't know. I don't remember, but it was a magical time for me. We did an episode a while ago called Clue, where we talked about figuring out what your trigger points are, what your trouble points are.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that movie in probably 20 years. We started watching it with our daughter last night.
Yeah, it turns out 1985 was not the enlightened time I remembered it being.
Lots of sexual innuendo and
inappropriate groping of the maid. And,
not as enlightened as we thought it was, but we'll stick with the analogy of the board game and not the movie so much. So.
Exactly.
But if you are in a situation where you have lost a lot of weight, or if you have not yet found your footing, we can invoke loopholes around bringing treats into our house. We see friends who can moderate. We see people on Instagram who bake entire trays of whatever, and we think, wow, they can do it. I should be able to do it too.
Yeah.
My best friend growing up was able to buy a candy bar, and she would eat 1 bite a day and then fold it into her backpack, and then maybe the next day have another bite. For me, I would just eat the entire candy bar at once, and then I would
box of candy bars, or whatever it happened to be.
But she was able to moderate, and I just wanted, I grew up having an eating disorder. So for me, that wasn't an option. But we see other people being able to do things, and we think that we should be able to do it too. But we have a list of, I don't know how many. I'm not going to count numbers because I'm always bad at that.
No.
We have a number of loopholes that one might invoke to accidentally or purposefully bring El Diablo home with you.
So does this sound like you? I'm buying it for my kids.
Oh, you're so benevolent.
My kids love it. I'm just going to get it for them.
What about, you know what? I've lost so much weight. I'm going to test my resolve. I know I usually eat all of them, but you know what? I'm just going to bring it home. I'm feeling pretty strong about
this time I think I can do it. It is National Donut Day.
Oh, you gotta be patriotic. You want to support.
I want to be part
industry.
of the larger thing. It's I can't not have it on National Croissant Day.
Exactly. There's also you go to a bakery and you see all of their delicacies. You got to get a dozen. You're here. You're hardly ever in this neighborhood.
Yeah,
it's a great place. Why don't you just bring a dozen home?
Yeah, or you're at Costco or your other big box store, and you're like, oh well, this is such a better value. I should buy the 18-ton tub of mayonnaise rather than
they sell a 5-pound bucket of Nutella, which our daughter was actually trying to negotiate. Like, what's really good? I could have like Nutella sandwiches. It'd be super healthy. It's made with whole milk.
Yeah.
Oh, no, thank you.
Exactly.
No, thank you. What about just this once? What?
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it just this once. Why not?
Exactly. Or how about it's tradition in our family to have this? Oh,
pierogies are tradition. Latkes are tradition. We always have a big Sunday meal on Sundays. Growing up, we always
have our big Sunday meal on Fridays.
Yeah,
but that's
why not?
just
Get
our
it
family.
Out of the way. We get it out of the way.
We don't like to wait till Sunday.
Right. There's also, Donald mentioned before the show, the COVID loopholes, which we actually did an episode called Loophole 19.
Oh, yeah.
Donald had a couple of great ones for COVID loopholes.
I'm helping out the economy.
You're helping out the economy. You want small businesses to stay in business. You want to support your friend who has the baked good company. You want to be a part of the team. The problem with that is we have eating disorders, and there are some causes that we just cannot participate in.
Or I'm going to order from, Uber Eats or, have something delivered to help out the local restaurants.
Yeah.
I usually can't control myself around it, but I'm helping out a good cause.
But what about the kid at the front of the grocery store who's selling candy bars so that they can save things and they can go on to camping trips?
Or Girl Scout cookies I used to sell candy bars door to door for Little League, and I can only imagine,
Oh my gosh, yeah, you got your Girl Scout things, you got your community bake sales, you got, you want to help raise money for things, you got to be supportive and part of the community. Yeah,
and then there's the loophole once you have it home. It's it's a shame to waste it.
Oh, so much of a shame. I made a cake, a red velvet cake with our daughter, and I counted out the calories, and I believe it had something like 10,000 calories in the entire cake. Once I realized that, I've already sunk the costs. We're already, there are starving people other places. We can't let this cake go to waste, but we ended up giving it to our neighbors.
That's
because
crazy.
I had one slice.
And now all of our neighbors have diabetes.
But there is that.
And it's our fault.
There's that loophole. I mean, I used to make, because I was benevolent, I would make cookies for our daughter's class. I'd eat half the dough beforehand, and suddenly the cookie portions would get smaller and smaller. But I was doing it for the kids. You got to do it for the kids.
Exactly. And one we didn't actually talk about before the show, which I think is the last one I have, is I'm buying my Halloween candy early because they might run out.
Oh my gosh, you got to get, well, and I had sort of the 'tis the season loophole.
Yeah.
You got to get the head start. What if they run out of the mallow creams that I love so much, which I don't think anybody likes those. But anyway.
You picked the most interesting examples of mallow creams.
I don't know. But, tis the season. Oh, well, they only have hot cross buns at Easter. They've only got this at this time, the pumpkin spice loophole.
Yeah.
All of that. We want to be festive and we want to be comforted. But unfortunately, when we find comfort in bringing food in the house, it sabotages our efforts.
Yeah. And, we've talked a lot about lying to ourselves. And our recent MVP episode, Catherine and I, our number one MVP in our weight loss journey has been being honest with ourselves and just honesty in general. And all of these things are excuses. I know deep down when I invoke one of these loopholes, when I make one of these excuses to bring the devil home with me, I know what's going to happen. And I want it to happen. I want an excuse to eat it. So I'm actually setting myself up for failure on purpose. And I have to catch myself and stop myself from doing that and realize that I am lying to myself in order to intentionally bring the devil home so that I can indulge in something.
Right. Well, and I think too, I know Donald didn't want to go too heavy on the devil analogies, but I might actually quote the Bible in a second. So just hang on tight, buddy.
Well, what are you waiting for?
Well, I wanted to say that I know a lot of times we hear people talk about like, oh, I've been possessed by the devil, or I've been, I don't know what happened to me. Actually, I saw someone actually posted something about like, well, I blacked out and then suddenly all the candy was gone.
Yeah.
You didn't actually black out. You just made a really indulgent decision. And we have those impulses too.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But some people actually talk about that side of themselves, that dark passenger, as we've talked about before, as having a different name. Like, oh, well, I call them, Batty Betty, or I call them, Negative Nancy or whatever. Blah. But like you give that alter ego part of yourself a different name to disassociate yourself from your own choices. And going back to what Donald said about owning your choices, it's not, my inner, negative whatever. It's me. I'm the one making the choices. It's not being possessed by the devil. Like I think in the actual Exorcist, they talk about like, okay, devil, what is your name? And like, I am Beelzebub, bringer of darkness. And it's like, no, I am Catherine, bringer of treats. Like I do it to myself. It is my choice. I'm not possessed by anybody. I'm just trying to find a loophole to bring something home. Oh, well, I was outside of myself. I don't know what happened. I just couldn't stop myself. We have to take control of our pulses. And we're about to. Oh, I was gonna quote the Bible.
Yeah, I was waiting for it.
So here we go. This is from Timothy 2:24 through 26. The devil stalks the pure. His goal is not to destroy you as a big game hunter kills its prey. Rather, the devil's main goal is to capture his quarry alive and use the person as he sees fit. We have these pristine goals about being perfect. We have goals about being, going on a diet plan and suddenly being fixed and cured. But when we bring the devil home with us, we are tempting those dark desires. Sorry, I'm not going to go anymore. I'm not going to quote any more Bible things. But
there is lots of bad acting happening.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not trying to be good at it. But we tempt ourselves with these, brightly packaged foods, with these decadent, it's not like we see Apple commercials. It was like, buy an apple, it's crunchy. It's always, decadent and dark and indulgent and forbidden and whatever. And the more we bring that into our homes, the harder this whole weight loss process is going to be. It's not about resolve. It's not about, I should know better. I'm not going to give in to temptation. James Clear talks about making it easy to make it easy on yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And you might be fine around certain treats, 90% of the time. But there is going to come a time when you're alone and feeling emotional, agitated, you're tired, and you get into these modes where you're just overconfident and you're like, oh, I can have this around. I can bring it home. And then one of these moments strikes. And, I had a pretty lousy day at work on Friday, and I was just looking for an excuse to eat or drink my feelings. And I resisted. And because I knew what I was doing, I knew I was, invoking the I deserve this loophole in order to have this. And so if I had had a lot of indulgent things in the house, I might have succumbed to that, but not having them here is helpful.
Well, and it's also that like Trojan horse thing of like, there are things that you bring home that are fine 3 weeks out of 4.
Right.
Which is a big issue for me because when I have my time of the month, suddenly food that I don't even like suddenly becomes tempting. You know, I buy something for our daughter and I don't think about it. And then suddenly it's like, darn it, I didn't bring any cookies home. Now what do I do? Oh, well, I don't even like licorice, but here you go. Like, I just need that hit. And
exactly.
We still, after losing all of this weight, have to watch what we bring into the house. We are not fixed. We're not suddenly the people. And I think I used to do this back in the day when I would lose weight. I'd be like, well, I'm fine now. I'll just make a tray of biscuits. Like, oh, Donald doesn't like biscuits and our daughter doesn't either. Well, I don't want them to go to waste, so I'll just eat them all. Like, that's what I used to do. And being honest with yourself is part of it. And then also having the tools, which I think is what we're going to talk about next.
Yes.
About sort of ways to manage having indulgences, but not having them in your home or not having them in the volume that you're used to. Because we're all about fitting things into our lives in a sensible way. We're not here to tempt ourselves. We're not here to have a binge weekend and start over on Monday. We're here to have things in moderation or in a purposeful, planned way so that they don't sabotage us, so that the devil doesn't suddenly take over everything.
And so one of the things to keep in mind is there may be certain foods that you just cannot have in your home. There may be certain foods that you can't have in your home now that maybe at some future time you will be able to have. Like, for example, for me, I used to not be able to control myself around soda. I couldn't just have one. I would one would turn into 15. But I am at a point in my weight loss journey venture now where I can have a soda in the house. I have them incredibly infrequently. And when I do, it does not send me reeling. But that may never be the case for some other foods. There may be things I just can't have around because they'll send me into madness, so to speak. Or, it's like the demon possessing me from The Exorcist.
Well, and two, I think when you were just starting this out and you were diagnosed with diabetes, I think you were really resentful at the idea of not being able to have soda again. And I think you were like, I'm never going to be able to have soda. I'm never going to be able to have whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I just was going to have to give up all enjoyable foods forever. And it turned out that it was, like a year where I basically abstained from just about anything enjoyable. And then I was able to gradually work those things back into my life.
Well, and I think we can have temper tantrums when we think like, it's not fair. What's the point of life if I can't enjoy a blank? Like, am I really living? This is terrible. And I think not looking at forever, but looking at a small chunk of time. Right now, this isn't working for me. Let me assess it in 6 months or a year and see how it goes. So we're just talking about the short term. For me, there are certain things. I haven't had a tub of hummus in the house in 5 years because it was my, 1,000-calorie indulgence every night. I'll repeat that. Every night. That was not a typo.
Yeah.
What do you do? A verbal typo.
A verbal typo.
Sure, why not? But I just don't bring it home. And there are people, I think we're going to do an episode on like what seems like healthy food, which isn't. Like, well, just pair it with some hummus. Oh, I did that. And that got me, 1,000 calories every night. Because why not just add butter to hummus too?
Yeah. And, a lot of this was a change in mindset. And I know that maybe we're spending a lot of time on this one thing, but I used to think that if I had one indulgent thing, that was a reason to throw away all of the progress that I had. And it was changing that mindset that has really allowed me to work these treats back into my life into small but consistent ways so that I don't go off the deep end with any of them. And that will lead me into my first suggestion, which is portion control.
Yeah.
Don't buy the giant box store sized bag of Doritos.
Right. But it's a value and your spouse is upset. Why are you wasting your money on single serving, Mother Earth?
Because that giant bag is one serving to me. Like, no joke, I will eat the whole thing in one sitting. If I take that out of the kitchen and bring it into the living room, it's not going back in the kitchen until it's inside me.
Right. But I think people who don't have eating disorders don't understand. They're like, well, that's a waste. Just moderate it. Just take one. Just. But with people like us who are, I'm a compulsive eater, and the portion is the packaging. It's like whatever the size is, calories, that's what I'll eat. If it's a 100-calorie pack, I'll eat that. If it's, like at the grocery checkout yesterday, what was it, like 460 calories for a small bag of chips?
Yeah, it was a single serving bag of chips, but it was like 460 calories. I don't buy the 240 calorie even single serving bags. I get the little tiny, like 3/4 of an ounce or whatever it is, 7/8 of an ounce bag that is like 150, 160 calories. And that is my one serving, and it satisfies my craving for that item. Maybe you would just end up eating 10 bags of it, and it wouldn't work for you. But this is one thing that works for me. Or when I have a candy bar of some kind, I buy the little minis that are, 80 or 100 calories, and I have one, sometimes two, and then that's it. And I know that is my treat for that moment in time, and I don't take a giant bag or a full, 300 or 400 calorie candy bar and eat that all at once.
Well, and the thing is, Donald can moderate candy at home, and I cannot. So Donald has the 100-calorie packs of things, and I have just had to make it a rule. I don't eat them. They're not mine. I can't start because for me, stopping eating those is difficult. For him, it is easy. So living with someone else who can moderate something, you have to know yourself well enough to say, that's not my food. And I have to do that with our daughter's treats and with Donald's.
Yeah, and even when we do bring treats home, we keep them out of sight.
Yeah.
Like so that they're not at eye level every time I open a cabinet or every time I open the refrigerator.
Right, they're not on the counter. They're not at eye level.
Yeah, we have these opaque metal containers that I keep some of my treats in, and then I keep some of my mini candy bars in a bottom drawer inside another container so that it takes me effort to, I have to consciously reach in there, open the lid, it's a screw top lid. I have to know what I'm going in for, and it's not just there it is right on the counter. I'm just going to easily grab one.
It's not like the candy bowl on the counter at work. Like making it difficult, making it, making sure that it's obscured matters. Our daughter has her own shelf in the pantry with her food on it, and it's lower than my eye level. So sure, if I wanted to, I could go in and eat it, and sometimes I do, and I end up regretting it. But having it be, having the food that you can feel good about in front of the food that is maybe more decadent matters. Keeping it out of the way. Don't keep it on the counter. There are certain things that I just, I can't open a certain cabinet because I can't moderate chips, and Donald can, and our daughter can. So I have to, living with other people, I have to know my limitations. Don't open Pandora's box of delicious treats.
That's a good name for a treat, Pandora's box of delicious treats. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. One of our neighbors set out a box of really expensive cookies, individually wrapped, yesterday or the day before.
Yeah.
And I invoked the they're out from the neighbors, and I'll save it for dessert, and it'll be, our daughter wants one. It'd be nice.
And how'd that work out for you?
I ended up eating the cookie pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
So the lie that I told myself was, I'll save it for burp. I don't save things.
Yeah.
I'm not a saver of things. I'm a saver of things.
Exactly.
But my next tip of the week is pairing. We've talked about this before. We had an episode called Pairing is Caring.
Yeah.
Where I talk about planning a treat in conjunction with an occasional event in your life. So every time you get an oil change, you get to have a croissant. Every time you take your dog to the groomer, you get a bagel. Every time you get a haircut, you get to have a Snickers bar. Whatever it is, keeping something in your life, but pairing it with something outside of the home gives you something to look forward to. It's not, do I deserve it? It's not, am I in the mood for it? It's, okay, when I get my haircut, I'm going to have a bagel, which is what I do. My stylist is next to a bagel shop. I used to eat 6 to 7 bagels a sitting when I would have bagels at work because I bring them in for the team because I'm a team player. But now I just pair it with a haircut and it makes it predictable. It puts it on a schedule and it keeps it in my life without being indulgent.
Yeah. And we're not talking about like pairing a treat with every time you get in the car.
Right.
Like that's not something to pair. You know, it has to be an infrequent, like every time you go to the eye doctor or every time you go to the dentist or, you know.
Well, and two, it's about those key treats that are really, you know, a 10 for you. It's not about just like the random box of like off Oreos that are in the refrigerator. Like, okay, fine, I'll eat it. But it's like, you know what is my favorite thing is a chocolate croissant with a cup of coffee. Like that is everything. So don't just wolf it down anytime in your car. Make it like when I get my bagel, I sit down with it with a cup of coffee outside in public. I don't eat it in my car. I don't wolf it down. I really savor it. And taking the time to decide, you know what? I really love, you know, Cold Stone Creamery ice cream. Okay, well, that's not something to have on a random Tuesday on the way home from work. I'm going to pair that with every time I get an oil change, or I'm going to get that every time I get my car washed. Pick a couple of things that are really important to you, even if it's a pizza. Like, I'm going to enjoy a pizza when we watch the Grammys or anytime we're watching an award show equals a hoagie from my favorite
man, there's
shop.
A lot of award shows out there, though. You have to be careful.
You know what I mean? Like, it's every day you could find like National Paperclip Day and decide like, oh, I'm going to celebrate it.
Only on holidays.
But, you know, making it super special. Like I remember the first time you had a Coca-Cola at home, it was when we were watching the Super Bowl. And I was like, oh no, here it comes. Is he just going to be, you know, possessed and never come back? But he was able to moderate it because it feels better to be able to plan an indulgence that really matters than it does to go like, I don't deserve it. I didn't lose weight this week. I can't have it. Nope. I get a haircut. I get a bagel.
Yeah,
like it's not dramatic. It's not emotional. It's just planned.
Another way that you can try and cast the devil out, so to speak, is to try and brush your teeth or use some mouthwash. And then you can say, the power of Crest compels you. The power of Crest compels you. I really mostly did that for the joke.
Yeah, no. But brushing your teeth matters. I had that surprise, shocking early oatmeal raisin cookie the other day. Yeah. But when you have that sweetness in your mouth, that deliciousness, suddenly you want more.
Yeah.
You want more when you have it. So brushing your teeth and getting that taste out of your mouth actually does help.
It does actually help. It's never really stopped me when I want to eat something, but it does help. I really brought it up for the joke mostly, but it may help.
Yeah, going along with the Exorcist thing. Another thing to do is pump up the volume. We've talked about this before, but the one and done single serving, I know we talked about in the loopholes of like, well, I never get to this bakery. I really want to get a selection of things because we're never in this neighborhood. I've heard it's great, so I'm going to get 6 different things. When you're in a situation where you're out and you want to get something indulgent, buy one of it. And then pump up the volume.
Yeah. Pump up the volume.
Where you have it, but then you pump up the volume by adding something else. So let's say that you love your Cold Stone Creamery ice cream. That stuff has a lot of calories. You love Ben & Jerry's. You love brownies, whatever.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Pump up the volume by adding fruit if you like it. So strawberries can go into so many different things. Have bring one square into the house.
Yeah.
And pump up the volume with tons of strawberries. Like add volume to it so that the experience goes longer and farther.
And it works with things like macaroni and cheese, like adding, savory. Cauliflower to that, something along those lines too. That really works for me when I do it.
No, totally. I got some delicious beef chili the other day. Delicious chili. Very high in calories, but I was able to double the volume of the chili by adding almost like half a cup to a cup of salsa to it.
Yeah.
I also sauteed some cabbage and then put that in there, and it pumped up the volume for no calories. So I was able to have it, because you think like, oh, I could never have that. Like, oh, that's one serving for me. But if you can pump up the volume with, like, I did a chicken salad the other day.
Yeah.
Very high calories. But again, pumping it up with tons of vegetables and having it on a salad made it go farther, but I still got to enjoy it.
Yeah. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but right now Trader Joe's has their harvest chili, and like the whole tub of it's like 320 calories. And
That's not
I
bad.
eat one of those for lunch.
That's a bargain.
And it's pretty darn satisfying. I've also been joking that nothing beats a hot bowl of chili on a blustery fall day, because it's been like 100 degrees here in Los Angeles in October.
So think about ways you can pump up the volume. We did a whole episode on it. You can go back to that. We already sort of talked about that out of sight thing. Don't keep it right on the counter. Don't keep it at eye level. But another one that I wanted to talk about was the first date rule, which kind of ties into the pairing habit of the...
So this is like, if you eat one date, you shouldn't keep eating dates?
No, someone tried to convince me that dates were like super dessert food.
Oh
like,
my
stop
God,
it.
no thank you.
Just stop. Just go.
I mean, dates are fine, but...
Okay, boomer.
I didn't get 100 pounds overweight by eating dates. That was not a trigger food for me.
Regularity is not an issue for me.
Whoa.
So neither are first dates. I haven't done that. But
no.
The first date rule is, and it ties into the don't bring the devil home with you. Have your treat in public, just like a first date.
Yeah.
Tell your friends where you're going, which I do. Hey, Donald, I am going to the bagel shop and I am going to have a bagel.
Yeah.
And then drive separately. Do not bring that home with you.
No.
Have the indulgence. And I know in this time of COVID, it can be difficult, but you know what? I love a chocolate croissant. So I'm going to have it outside of the bakery, sitting in a chair with a cup of coffee. I'm not going to be scrolling Facebook while I'm eating it. I'm going to be mindful. I'm going to enjoy it. I actually last year I took a day off and went to a French bistro.
Wow, you're so fancy.
I am super fancy. And I had a single croissant with a cup of coffee, and I was listening to like snooty Edith Piaf music in my
God.
ears. Like
I married her, everybody.
Oh yeah. No, but I really savored it and I really enjoyed it. And I didn't just, in the before time, I would literally just eat it in the car, wolf it down on the way to work.
Oh yeah.
Have croissant crumbs all over my lap.
Well, and then you're at that point where you've barely even tasted it and you feel like, oh, I kind of missed out. Even though you actually ate the thing, like you're not paying full attention. So you're like, oh, well, that went by pretty quickly. I barely got to enjoy it. I should have another one.
But the kids on the TikToks and the Twitters talk about those first date apps. I don't know.
Yeah.
But having it in public.
Swipe right?
Swipe
left?
You know where to swipe. Let us know.
You're swiping some direction.
No swiping, swiper.
Yeah.
But have it in public. Have it seated. Have it as a special thing on a plate. Make it purposeful. Have it with other people. I love McDonald's. So I'm going to have it with a friend. I'm going to have it in public and I'm not going to bring it home with me. It is, I think I actually went to a coffee shop with Donald and there was a woman who was having a muffin and a giant drink. And I was like, wow, that's indulgent. And then I thought to myself, maybe she's pairing something in public as an occasional treat. Like instead of judging that, like, boy, should you really be having an ice cream sundae? No, I'm sitting in public enjoying a treat that I really want. And I think it matters so much to be public about the treats that we have because I feel so much shame around it, or I felt so much shame around it. Like, oh, why is she having that? It is so important to normalize treats in your life and to not feel judged by it. I went when I think I'd lost about 20 pounds and I went to an ice cream parlor with a friend and her mother. And I had planned for the scoop of ice cream. Like it was exactly in my calorie count. It was going to be something I really enjoyed. And the mother said, boy, you should really skip dinner tonight because you're enjoying that ice cream.
Yeah.
Like, boy, this is your meal of the day. And I felt so terrible. I didn't have the boundaries around letting people talk about how I'm eating. Like, oh, you're going to eat all that? Oh, you're only eating that? Oh, you're going to eat whatever. But normalizing eating in public, I used to secret eat all the time because of the shame I felt around the food. I no longer make excuses for the food I'm eating. I eat it in public, and I make it purposeful. So really owning your choices and making conscious decisions about how you manage the devil in your life. Because I am not a person right now who's just going to say, I'm never going to have sugar again. I'm never going to have bread again. Making it a part of your life in a purposeful way keeps some balance in your life. It gives you something to look forward to and indulge. It's not about, like white knuckling forever. It's about fitting things into your life in a way that makes sense.
And I only have one more thing on my list, but it is, again, another Catherine Weigel rule, and it comes from the sport of baseball, which is the three strikes rule.
3 strikes. You're
and
out.
If you're in Australia, that you might be able to equate that to the incorrect disposal rule, which is some penalty in Australian rules football.
Oh,
I'm trying to make us a little more international.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But that idea of, you bring something home and you overindulge. And you go, well, it was a bad day. I was blah, blah, blah. And then you bring it home again, and then you make I just want to get it out of the house, so I'm going to eat it all right now.
Right.
You do that 3 times. That thing is telling you that you cannot moderate it in your home. That is a clear sign that it is a devil in your home.
Exactly.
And that you just, you need to take a 6-month break and reassess it and use one of those other things, the buy one and done, the eat in public, pairing is caring. You've got to take control of your food choices, because if you let your food choices control you, forget my life, 2020, wow.
Exactly.
You've got to be a champion of your choices and go, okay, that didn't work. I mean, almost like you would with a toddler. Like, okay, that didn't work. What am I going to do differently? Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, it doesn't change when you lose the 100 pounds.
Right.
We still have to watch ourselves.
All the time. Like just the same as I did before I lost the weight.
Yeah. And for me, I think the last one for me is make rules around your treats.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot have something sweet for breakfast.
Oh, yeah. Me either.
Like, it is dessert for me. Cereal is dessert for me. Calling it what it is for you. I cannot have a pastry in the morning. I cannot have a muffin in the morning.
I really don't eat anything that tastes like a treat before dinner all day, every day. Like whatever that is, I don't have a 2:00 treat. I don't have a 10 a.m. treat, because I can't do it. I shouldn't say I can't do it. I am not currently able to do it. If I do, then I am white knuckling it. I am using every amount of my willpower to stop from continuing that treat train from rolling.
There are trains. There are devils.
Yeah.
But I'm going to invoke vampire rule right now.
Ooh.
You don't do it before sunset.
Oh, yeah.
You don't drink before sunset. Vampires don't come out until sunset.
Yeah.
You don't eat a treat. You don't eat something triggery or sweet until, after dinner. If in the middle of the day, I realized recently that my, 90-calorie meringue after lunch treat ended up taking me to Snack Town all afternoon. Just that little bit of sugar, even though it was only 90 calories.
On a vampire-driven coach.
Sure.
Instead of a train.
But I realized I need to wait until after dinner to have my treat. Make rules around certain treats. I do not randomly have a muffin on a Tuesday. I don't randomly stop at McDonald's on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
You know what? McDonald's is payday. Payday on whatever is when I have McDonald's, and that is it. I only get the kids' meal. Make some hard rules for yourself, because that negotiating, that's where the devil comes in. We are smart people. We try to negotiate our choices. If you're making sounds like that of how can I spin this so that it makes sense?
Yeah.
That's when the devil creeps in. That's when, your choices become more fluid and you become calorically promiscuous. I close my kitchen at 8 p.m. for the most part, because I know any choice that I make after 8 o'clock, I'm not eating a head of iceberg lettuce after 8 p.m. I'm going in looking for little treats and sweets, and at 60 to 90 calories at a time. Like I did last night, I had 2 meringues in front of your face.
Yeah.
those aren't good choices. Those aren't choices that are going to make me proud of myself the next day.
Yeah.
So make some rules around the devil in your home. How can you advocate for yourself? How can you see patterns in yourself that are self-sabotaging? How can you be proactive and make decisions? Look at your month and go, oh, you know what? I've got a dentist appointment on Wednesday. That's when I'm going to have the banana nut muffin that I like. You know what? It's pumpkin spice season. Great. You know what? I'm going to save that for the first of the month.
Yeah.
Making those choices for yourself, taking out the negotiation, taking out the risk by bringing home a dozen. It is okay to throw out food. It is okay to give something to a neighbor if you can't control yourself around it.
For sure.
When we start negotiating, we are not people who have mastered managing our food choices. But the more tools we have to fight our urges, to control our urges, the better we are. It's not about how long can I sit there with the cake on the counter and not have it. It's put it out of sight, plan when you're going to have it, throw food away, manage single servings, pump up the volume with low-calorie foods to make it go farther. You can be an advocate for yourself and come up with ways to control those choices. Because if we don't, we're just going to be spinning our wheels and wonder why, like, oh, these diets aren't working for me. Oh, I wasn't meant to lose weight. No, we're negotiating with ourselves. It's simple. It's not emotional.
Absolutely. And if all else fails, have an aging priest come over and perform an exorcism and throw away all of your treats in the house. I don't know where I was going with that, but
it's fine.
It's Halloween time.
And before we sign off, I just wanted to remind everybody, it is the week of Halloween. And just remember that Halloween candy is only Halloween candy on October 31st.
Yeah.
Any other day you have candy, it's just Monday candy. Just really be careful with it because we're entering the danger zone time of treats.
Yeah, for sure. It's everywhere in our faces.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening, everyone. We really appreciate each and every one of you. If you liked this episode, or even if you didn't, you can find a lot more like it wherever you found this podcast. We're available pretty much wherever you can find podcasts. You can also find all of our episodes at weonlylookthin.com.
Yeah, and you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at We Only Look Thin. You can email us at weonlylookthin@gmail.com. If you have any tips or tricks to keep the devil out of your home, we'd like to know about it.
Yeah, if you have questions, we will eventually answer them. If you have episode ideas, we love those. We've done several to many episodes based on listener questions. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And if you need a little bit more accountability in your life, you can go to our website. Once again, weonlylookthin.com and click on Join Our Support Group. We have a support group called Wolt Place, We Only Look Thin Place, which is a support group for women. And there are people there going through the same things you're going through, and you have direct access to Catherine Weigel on there.
Me.
And
and if you're wondering if it's right for you, based on 2 different subscription rates, you can either get a 3-day complimentary trial to see if it's right for you if you sign up for a monthly membership, or if you sign up for 3 months, you get a 7-day trial just to see if it's right for you.
Absolutely. And if you wouldn't mind doing something for us, you could go to Apple Podcasts, please, and give us a rating and a quick review. It really helps us out. I think we're right around 400 of them at this point.
We're getting close. We love those stars.
You could be the 400th one, and you'll get a special thank you or something.
That would be pretty exciting. We would really appreciate it.
Yeah, it really helps people when they're looking for shows like ours. It really boosts us in the search engine on Apple.
We recently broke the 100 mark on Apple
Podcasts.
Yeah, we're
did.
in the top 100 of nutrition weight loss podcasts.
Yeah, we're pretty cool. Yeah. We're a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for listening, and if you still can't tell the difference between an incorrect disposal in Australian rules football and a strikeout in baseball, just remember that Catherine and I are an inspiration. The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.